So if you watched my video about 10 days ago, I did my first impressions of the brand new fragrance that came out by Hugo Boss. It is Boss Bottled Bold Citrus. Well, I have worn it literally either by testing or giving it a full wearing every day since, and you guys wanted me to come back with a full review, and so that is what I'm doing today, especially because that dry down got different, so you guys wanted to see the full review. So today we're doing my full review of Boss Bottled Bold Citrus. So without further ado, let's get it. What's going on, my great smelling dudes? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Randy, aka FragranceDoud, back at you with another full review of a brand new release here in 2025 by the house of Hugo Boss. Before we get into that, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Everybody hit that like and then comment below. Let me know if you have happened to try this out. Please don't ask me if you can where you can find it, because it's only sold on one website as of right now. I mean, it will make its way to stores, but it wasn't officially released worldwide yet. It was supposed to be March 1st. So if you type it in Google and it's not there, then that means that site is sold out, and they have been sold out for the last week. So just don't ask me, because I have no kind of like magician trick to find it for you. With that said, today I am doing my full review of Hugo Boss Bold Citrus, or Boss Bottled Bold Citrus. This guy right here. It's actually a really nice bottle. I've always liked the Boss Bottleds. They're always a nice glass. They're hefty, have nice caps. Usually nice atomizer. This one leaks on the inside of the neck. I contacted the makeup, and they said, why don't you take a picture of you spraying it so that we can see the leak? I said, well, if I spray it, then I can't show you the inside of the neck where it leaks when I spray it. Well, then we can't refund you or give you a return. I was like, I'll just return it, exchange it for me, and then you guys can see when you get it back in, when you get the return, that it leaks whenever I spray it. Well, sorry, we can't do that. I was like, sorry, then I won't buy from you again. Not that they care, but anyway, Boss Bottled Bold Citrus. Now I gotta spray it because I need to get that atomizer back down. But there we go. All right, so how does it smell? Well, when it opens up, let me give you the note breakdown. It's very simplistic. On the back, top notes are lemon primo fiore essence. Heart notes are elemi extract, and base notes are patchouli essence. I can tell you there is more going on in here. There's definitely oak moss, there's bergamot, maybe a bit of like grapefruit or citron or something like that. A little bit of like a vetiver, maybe a little bit of a creamy woodiness as well. With that said, how does it open up? It opens up, and everybody keeps asking me this. I don't know why everybody keeps asking me this. I don't know if it's just because the mid note is elemi, but does it smell like Dior Homme Sport 2021? It doesn't have pink pepper. It doesn't have aldehydes. It just has elemi. But because it has elemi doesn't mean it's Dior Homme Sport. It smells nothing like Dior Homme Sport. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, why are people saying that? And then I started getting people say, so I heard it was a mix of Dior Homme Sport 2021 and Aqua de Jo Eau de Parfum. I said, now we're getting even crazier, because Aqua de Jo, I mean, if it's Aqua de Jo this or that, it smells like an Aqua de Jo at some point in time. This smells nothing. It doesn't have the minerality of those fragrances. It doesn't have the metallic vibes. It doesn't have the aquatic vibes. I mean, I don't know where this is all coming from. But with that said, I can't compare this to anything. There is no fragrance out there that I smell in this opening that I can tell you this smells like that. So let's just get that out of the way. So how does it smell? When you first spray it on, it is a nice blend of citruses. It's not very bright. I thought so it was at first, but it's not like super bright at all. It's more of kind of like a just nice zesty tart citrus mixture that has this kind of lemon bergamot feeling with a little bit of green tone. So I think it might be like a green bergamot that's mixed in there. And then you have almost another citrus in there that feels slightly grapefruitish, and that's why I said it might be citron. Because citron comes off like a lemony grapefruit mix, and it seems like that's mixed in with the lemon oil and the bergamot oil. But so it's a nice tart, zesty citrus in the opening. And you mix that together with a little bit of like a green and fougere-ish background. It has a slight soapy nuance that is a little bit subdued, but just provides a nice background soapy nuance. And then you have this kind of green tone and spice that is coming from the patchouli and the elemi. And the green tone has a bit of a creaminess to it. So that's where you would get your patchouli, and then the spice comes from the elemi. It's not really smoky or anything like that at this point in time. But anyway, so it's one of the best openings of any designer fragrance that has been released, especially for the spring in the last few years. That opening hour and a half is just delicious. If you like citrus and greens and you want something that doesn't smell like really anything else, the opening of this is great. Again, a little fougere-ish, a little bit spicy, but then that zesty and tart citrus on top. That doesn't really just feel like one citrus. And so in my first impressions, that citrus faded very quickly. I think it was because I only sprayed it one time. And then I sprayed it like 9 more times after. So I might have been becoming anosmic, because I told you at about a half hour, the citrus started to dissipate. The fragrance started to fall flat. It was becoming a skin scent. Well, now after wearing it a bunch of times, I can still tell you, so that opening did last longer. I'm still at about an hour and a half where the citrus starts to fall off. So it did last longer. Citrus will fall off at some point. Citrus falls off. But the thing is that I was expecting it to leave a little bit of trace elements of the citrus behind, whether it be the sweetness or just a little bit of the zest. It doesn't. That citrus at like an hour and a half is almost all but gone off your skin. And then it's all replaced with kind of this creamy patchouli that falls underneath with some oak moss. But it almost reminds me of like a little bit of motor oil is the way that it comes across. And the fragrance doesn't smell bad. It's just, it reminds me of a patchouli dominant version of Nishane's Hatchie Vat Dry Down, which I didn't like because I've never been a huge fan of oak moss. You guys know I have like 3 weaknesses in the fragrance game, and that is rose, powder, and oak moss. Those are like my big 3 no-nos. And the oak moss in this isn't very prominent, but it's just enough that it adds a little bit of funk for me. And so that is where this fragrance just kind of hits a lull. It becomes a little bit more generic. And so while I love the opening of this fragrance, and I think it's really, really nice, and I think a lot of you guys are going to enjoy it, the fragrance does fall a little bit flat still, just like I said in the first impressions. It's just it falls flat a little bit later. And then again, it's more about the hour and a half mark where it starts to become light. And so the fragrance does stay on your skin for about 7 hours. So the performance getting it out of the way, it's about a 7-hour fragrance, except for after an hour and a half, from that hour and a half mark until 7 hours, it is like about this far off the skin. My wife and my daughter, anytime that I wanted to have them smell it, they had to literally put their nose into my arm to smell the fragrance. But at that point in time, it's a little bit of vetiver, a little bit of oak moss, covered by this kind of creamy patchouli and a little bit of spice from the elemi. It's generic. It just doesn't really do much for me. There's a slight woodiness to it and musk around it, but it's neither here or there. It's just a kind of basic, generic, semi-woody, creamy patchouli on top of it. I think the woodiness might be coming from the patchouli as well. But yeah, I just wish that opening had stuck. And so the thing is that a lot of fragrances people wear because of the openings. And I know like average Joes will spray on a fragrance, be like, oh, that's great, just because of the opening. And this opening does last an hour and a half. And the dry down isn't anything to say, hey, that sucks. So it's a very wearable fragrance. And for the price point that it's going for, I think it's like $100 around that. You really can't go wrong, because in about 2 months, this will be 80, then 60, then 40. And you'll find it at like some discounters, like Marshalls and stuff, if this is not a limited release. But Boss Bottled Bold Citrus, overall, I would say this is like a 7.8. If I would go by that opening, I would say it was like an 8.8 to a 9 just because of that opening. And if they just added something different in the dry down to make me just be like maybe some sandalwood or something like that, but it just didn't sit right to the point where it made it a little bit generic, which then the dry down I would give like a 6.5 or a 7. So I have to go somewhere in the middle there. So I'm going to go with like a 7.8 to an 8 just because of that dry down. Overall, I want you guys to make your own opinions. Again, you can't really do that right now because there's nowhere to buy it. But once it does hit stores, it's something that's that you should be willing to try out. But don't go into a store, spray it, and say, oh, I'm buying that. I love that opening. Because if you feel the same way as me and you go into the dry down, you might think to yourself, okay, once I got to that dry down, I don't really feel like it's worth $100 or $110 or whatever it is. And I'll just wait for it to come on discounters. So just make sure that you spray it on yourself. Do your due diligence. Walk around the mall or whatever store you're at for about a half hour to an hour just to see where that dry down does go. But again, it takes a while to get there. But the opening is great. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. It's a spring release, but you can wear it spring, summer, fall. I wouldn't wear it in cold weather. And the dry down is just average. With that said, performance wasn't as bad as I thought. It just becomes closer to the skin once you get to an hour and a half. If you don't like its intimate sense, then you're not going to like the dry down. The opening hour and a half is about above average, but then it becomes more of an intimate sense. So yeah, that is Boss Bottled Bold Citrus. My thoughts pretty much are the same as they were in the first impressions, except for that opening that I love just stayed longer. That's really it. So with that said, thank you guys so much. If you have any other questions, let me know. And again, I'll probably revisit this once it gets warmer outside to see how it acts in the heat. And yeah, I'll be back with another one. Thanks so much. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Peace out.